You're listening to Relating with Jen Funk, where we are getting honest about the relationships that matter most. If you want stronger, more connected relationships with the people you love, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Well, hello, and welcome back to another episode of Relating with Jen Funk. I am Jen, relationship coach and your host, and I am so glad to have you here and listening today. This is going to be a fantastic episode because we are talking all about travel, but not in the way that we usually talk about travel. Now, let me start off asking a question. When was the last time that you felt truly connected, not just relaxed, but truly connected to your partner, to your kids, to your friends, maybe even to yourself? Because most of us are not disconnected in our relationships because we don't care about them. Most of the time, we feel disconnected when we are busy or we are overwhelmed or we simply put life on autopilot. And today I want to talk about one of the most powerful tools that I have seen to break that pattern, and that is travel. Now, this is not going to be an episode about bucket list trips or luxury vacations. It's really about why travel helps us emotionally, how it can strengthen marriages, how it can deepen family bonds, deepen friendships, and helps us reconnect to ourselves, and how it also expands how we see the rest of the world. If you stay with me today through the end of the episode, you will learn why couples often connect faster when they travel together, why traveling with kids matters more than we think, even when they're young, and how friend trips and solo trips can really support our mental health. You'll also learn how travel helps to build empathy and gratitude and perspective, and also how to make a realistic plan to prioritize travel in this new year, even if it's on a budget. Now, I'm so excited to bring in today's guest. Her name is Jennifer Sullivan. She is the founder and principal advisor at J. Sullivan Travel Advisors. And also, she is a dear friend of mine. So here is my interview with Jennifer Sullivan. Jennifer Sullivan, I am so glad to have you on the podcast today. Thanks for being here.
Of course. Hello to you too, Jen. Happy New Year.
Thank you, and Happy New Year to you. I can't believe we're already into January, and you're my first guest of the new year.
Aw.
You get the honored space.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here. So I love this topic. I'm so
Awesome.
glad that you put this connection together.
Yes, for sure. And I already mentioned this conversation is really going to be about the power of travel as a relationship tool. But before we even get into any of that, tell everyone, how did you get into travel? What's your background? Clearly, it's your passion. So tell us a little bit about it.
I think I came by it naturally, and I blame my parents. I mean, one of my earliest memories is of them putting my sister and I in a VW Bug and going all up and down the East Coast to visit family and cousins and stuff like that. So they just instilled it in us in an early age, and I'm so grateful. Right out of college, my first job was traveling to different college campuses every 4 days. So while my friends were getting cool apartments, I was getting great luggage. And then I fell into hotels and spent the majority of my career with the Ritz-Carlton Hotel Company in group sales. So learned so much in that situation. And then 5 years ago, just took the leap and went out on my own so that I could work more directly with friends, family, and help them see all the value of travel and what they could experience with it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you do both corporate and leisure travel,
I
right?
do.
As a part of your business?
Yeah, I work with
Yeah,
small companies
fantastic.
that don't have their own planning company in-house or team in-house, and then leisure as well, booking vacations for people.
Perfect. Well, that's the part that we're going to focus on today. And again, before we dial into specific relationships, I want to kind of go big picture here. Tell us in your words, how does travel change people emotionally, not just geographically? Like, what happens when people get out of their life and go adventure somewhere?
It's pretty powerful. And I know you've experienced this because you guys travel a lot, but it's not just about being in different scenery. It really does change the dynamic of a relationship. And this is why I'm so passionate about travel. I think that when you do it right, which is really kind of getting in and immersing yourself in a new place, you become more passionate, more compassionate, I should say. You are more understanding of differences. Differences don't become, they're not weird or strange anymore. They're just differences that you can appreciate. You're more kind and, as I said, compassionate. So I think there's so much to be learned from travel.
Yeah. So let's start then. Let's start with couples. And I
Yeah.
have to say, in my own experience and in my own marriage, Casey and I have been really blessed to travel quite a bit. And I always think back, especially when the kids were younger and you're like really in the weeds and life is just busy. We would go on vacation and I would be like, oh, there it is. That's
Yeah.
why I love this man. You know,
Yeah.
not that I forget, but you get so busy that you sometimes can lose that connection that you have with your partner. So
Yeah.
let's talk about couples and
Hmm.
why it's so important to prioritize, or maybe it's just giving yourself the opportunity to step out of those normal roles that we're playing and then go to this whole new space. Why is that so powerful for couples?
I think you just hit the nail on the head. You are stepping out of your normal roles. There's no default cook or default social planner. You get to see your partner outside of the context of your daily responsibilities, and that's huge. Oftentimes, when you're traveling, you're going into an unknown situation and your sense of teamwork. I mean, you have to work together to figure things out, like the subway system or the language, even. And it's kind of like that us against the world feeling comes back, and you re-energize Team Funk or Team Sullivan. So that's huge. Gosh, there's
Yeah,
so
that's
many
awesome.
ways. And you don't always get it right, and that's great for couples too. Getting things wrong together often results in laughter, and that's very
Yeah, like getting
therapeutic.
getting lost
Yeah,
and getting off at the wrong subway stop in New York and
yeah,
being like, "Oh my gosh, we got on the wrong train."
yeah. Granted, it can be stressful at the
Yeah,
beginning,
and
but
then
then that's the stuff you laugh about when you're talking about it later. So,
yeah, those are your stories and your memories. And
yeah,
then I also just have to say, regardless of where it is, it's when you disconnect from your normal life, it's almost like it just opens up everything in you to deepen that connection with the person that you're with. And
yeah.
and then I'll also throw in that there's nothing better than hotel sex. So that's just an extra little
I was going to touch on that too.
little extra. I don't know what it is about that either, but
There's
I'll just throw it
neuroscience.
in.
There's science behind that. Newness or novelty affects attraction. More newness increases dopamine, and it increases attraction. So you're absolutely right. It's working for you.
There you go. I knew there had to be something to
Yeah.
it.
Yep.
All right, let's transition a little bit then. Clearly, it's a priority, it's worth prioritizing for couples. But let's talk a little bit about kids and traveling as a family because a lot of parents are like, "Well, we'll travel one day, but we're not going to travel with our kids right now because they're too young or they're not going to remember it."
Mhm.
How do you feel about that?
Well, I don't agree because the benefits aren't just for the kid, they're for the parent too. I mean, you've got a more captive audience when you're traveling with your kids. You've removed them from everything that's distracting, like their friends and their schedules and everything. So even if they're not old enough for that stuff, you're still getting captive time with your child to see things through their eyes. So I think there are benefits for the parent, and there are certainly benefits for the kids. It builds their confidence. I've got one family who, when they go into the airport, they designate a kid to navigate them through the airport. So that definitely gives the kid more confidence. They involve their
Yes, that's a
kids,
great idea.
yeah, as collaborators, and that makes the child more invested as well. They can be your translators. It's been a long time since we took grade school Spanish, but our kids it wasn't that long ago. So oftentimes they speak
That's
the foreign
right.
language better. So,
Yes, they could exactly. They're your translators
yeah.
right there.
Yeah.
I love that. It's funny when we were talking about even with the couples like coming up with challenges.
Hmm.
One of my funniest memories is being in Quebec with my dad who thought he could speak French and we were at a fondue restaurant just my sister and my dad and I trying to say we want one cheese fondue for 3 people. And And my dad tried so hard, and out came like a cauldron, like a witch's cauldron full. They did 3 orders of, we had more cheese than we could
That's
imagine. And here I am so many years later. And I remember
yeah.
that. And I
Yeah.
remember being with my dad and us laughing the stories later. And also, you said yourself, your parents, by traveling with you, inspired you. Now you've made a whole career out of it.
Mhm.
That came from memories that you had of your parents taking you
Mhm.
on trips
Yep.
and instilling that love of travel. And I'll say too, especially the ages my kids are, and I know yours are too, it's hard to get everybody together.
Mhm.
And if you say, hey, let's get together on a trip and I'll pay for it, then the kids are
They
like,
come.
oh, okay,
Yeah.
we'll go. And then you've got them.
Yeah.
You've got
The
them all
captive.
together, which is yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. So I
Yeah.
totally, totally relate to that.
Yeah.
Now, is there is there a right age? I guess there's probably benefits, pros and cons to all the
Yeah.
ages, right?
I'm a firm believer that start traveling while your kid is under 2 because they can fly for free.
Oh,
And
there you go. Good
yeah,
point.
right. And it gets them used to traveling. It's not scary or
Yeah.
it's not daunting. I mean, silly stuff like you can teach them, hey, when your ears are not popping on an airplane, you can take a drink, and that'll make your ears pop. I mean, there's just so many lessons to start even when they're that young. Of course, they're going to
Yeah.
remember more the older they are, but I think getting them used to the whole process at an early age is important. And then you can start making the trips more about them. Hey, what are you curious about? Well, let's build a trip around that. If
Yeah.
you're really into history, great. Let's go to Rome and see ancient history because we don't have old here in America. And that's
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
I could talk about this forever.
So what you're saying is there's more choices than Disney, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think I said
You
it.
think kids, everybody wants to go to Disney, but
Yeah.
there's so many places to go.
How many people do you talk to that go to Disney and they come home and they're like, "I need a vacation," because 'cause they're tired.
Oh yeah, they need we have got nothing, not knocking Disney. It's
Right,
fabulous.
right.
I do believe everyone should do it once, but you're
Yes.
exactly right. When you get home, you are completely wiped out and you've spent an exorbitant amount of money
Mhm.
that you could have gone to Rome
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
had a different experience.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's fabulous. And I love that. And I do hope all of the parents out there that are just hesitant to get out there with their kids will reconsider a little bit
Yeah.
after what you're sharing. So let's transition now to traveling with friends, girls' trips, guys' trips. I mean, I have such great memories. I haven't done that many, but my girls' trips I've taken just feel good for the soul,
Yes.
you know?
Yeah.
Why is that piece of travel so important? I know that that's the impact it has on me. Do you see that universally with the trips
Absolutely.
that you plan for people?
Absolutely. It reminds us of who we were before we stepped into these roles of mom or boss,
Mhm.
and it
Yeah.
reinforces our identity outside of spouse or parent or job. So it gives us a chance to just kind of take a short break and let go and have fun. It is really good for your mental health to do that.
Yeah. The mental health part, right?
Mm,
When we are taking care of ourselves,
hmm.
we're so much better for our people.
Yes.
So I have a lot of my experience in working with couples. Sometimes there's resentment
Mm,
around, oh, my husband wants to go take another guy's trip, or maybe, spouses just resenting it, not
hmm.
not being super supportive of their partner going away with girlfriends or guy friends and getting away. And as we're saying, there's so much value in it. If you come back refreshed and renewed, you are that much better for your partner and your
Absolutely.
kids.
Absolutely. It's not a frivolous trip. It's actually kind of preventative care because you
Yeah.
do come back with a stronger sense of self and you've got more to offer your kids, your partner. You've got new things to talk about around the dinner table. It is important, and there's always the laughter. There's so many facts behind how good laughter is for your mental health. And honestly, it's on these trips that you're strengthening these friendships before there's a crisis, because these are often the people that rally around you when you need them. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And you saying remembering who you were,
hmm.
chances are these people you're traveling with are the ones that knew you then.
Yeah,
Your team, your tribe that
yeah,
rallies around you, right?
yeah,
That's so important. And keeping those relationships strong because they kind of get neglected when we get married and we have kids and they can sometimes go by the wayside. And
yeah.
what a great way to keep them strong and fresh. You're right. Yeah,
I
it's
wish I
a
saw
beautiful point.
guys do this more. I think it's much more natural for women to plan a girls' trip or something like that, and it's just not in the male culture to go
Yeah,
away. I
it's
know
true.
Casey has a group, but he's that is a special
Casey's
group.
good about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Um, so I think that's an awesome opportunity for wives to help their husbands. You know, we're normally the default planners in most cases. I've got
Mhm.
two clients, two women who gift their husband a guy's weekend every year, and they kind of get the ball rolling for them.
It's awesome.
And you know,
Yeah.
guys bond more over activities than conversation. So it's
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
center it around that. You know, do they love fishing? Do they love biking? Do they love bourbon? Plan the trip around that with some of their friends, and then they can reap all those health benefits, mental health, and true bonds that women do because men need it. Men need those benefits as well. So just
Yeah,
cool
and I
spin
think,
on it.
yeah, stereotypically, I just don't think that guys don't prioritize that as much. And that's a great idea to plan it around an activity where
Mm,
for us women, we can just lay on a beach all day with a cocktail in our hand and be just as happy and laugh all day and
yeah,
never. I literally have had beach trips where I think we were on the beach by 10 in the morning and it's 8 o'clock at night. And we're still laying on the beach,
because we bond
just
over
laughing and
conversation.
talking. It's
Yeah,
just amazing.
yeah,
Totally.
absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
I could not agree
All right,
more.
let's transition because, yes, along the mental health line, talk about solo travel.
Mm-hmm.
I know a few women that have done this. I haven't. I haven't,
Mm-hmm.
and I've thought about it.
Mm-hmm.
I've thought about it. There's a part of me that's like, well, am I going to hurt my family's feelings if I'm like, I'm going to go on my trip
Yeah.
and I don't want any of you to be there? You know, I'm afraid they're going to be like, what, mom? Why don't you want to take me? Or maybe Casey being worried, like, oh, she's got to get away from us. Is there something wrong that she's not talking about? Those are my fears. And I
Yeah.
think that's probably why I've never done it. And I know some people are just concerned about just navigating, especially traveling alone as a woman.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us a little bit about that and why that's important.
The mental process that you go through or that conversation you just had in your head is so common. Women are really not good about solo
Mm.
travel because we don't blink an eye at spending a couple $1,000s to send our son to soccer camp, but spend that money on us. Ooh, that feels really selfish. But by doing it, we're demonstrating that we know our own worth. You know, we know that I'm worth investing in. And that's really, really important. I will say it's the younger generations who are much better at this. First of all, solo travel is the growing travel trend right now. The segment of
Oh, wow.
solo travel is expected to double by 2030. And it is mostly the millennials and the Gen Zs that are leading that because they tend to prioritize themselves more. They're not the ones who are like, oh, I can't spend that money on myself.
Mhm.
They value the self reflection and the just time to set personal goals. So they are the ones leading this trend. Hopefully, our generation is getting on board. You know, I talk to so
Right.
many women who it does feel scary or daunting, but then when they come back, it
Mhm.
feels really empowering. So there is so much benefit behind it, therapeutic benefit as well. So I hope that people can, or women, we can reframe it a little bit and look at it as a form of self care. To your point earlier, we're not good to the people who depend on us if we're not well. It's the whole oxygen mask thing, you know, we can't take care of our loved ones if we're not well ourselves. So solo travel is important.
Yeah. And what's more beneficial, do you think? Getting away and going to the beach, or do you look for like a wellness retreat? I know that you've had
Yeah.
experience planning retreats before as well. What's the benefit of each? If I were going to say I'm doing it this year, I'm going to do solo travel, do I just find a destination or should I do a retreat?
I think an easier entry point is retreats because someone is planning it for you and you are with other people, but they're not necessarily people you know. So it's kind of a gradual way to ease into solo travel. One of my other side hustles is designing and hosting women's retreats. And there was one time
Mm.
when a woman who joined us on the second day, she just broke into tears. And they weren't tears of sadness, but she said, I'm finally exhaling and I finally feel like I'm being heard.
Mm.
So, silence and space, I think that's important. be it on a retreat or by yourself, but silence and space creates clarity. And that break in routine reduces stress. You become more self reliant and more self compassionate. So I think and it honestly, it helps your other relationships. As I said before, the oxygen mask thing, but I think you probably know this even better than I. The couples who have recently gone through empty nesting that tend to be the healthiest are those where each individual has their own interests. They don't rely on each
Yes.
other for entertainment. They have their own thing, and travel can be your own thing. You go on your solo trip, you go on your retreat, you experience something new, and you come back fired up. You have something interesting to talk about and share with your partner. It revitalizes the couple relationship too. So I
Yeah,
could go on and on.
that's such a great point. I know you can. You have so much great information.
Mm,
But I like that a retreat can be an entryway into solo travel if you've got some fears or anxiety around doing it. That would be a great way to do it. All right, let's talk about the relationship with the world, right? We're
mm,
sitting here in Richmond, Virginia. There are people that don't have any interest finding out what's happening outside of Richmond, Virginia. How does it help our relationship with the world, our world perspective,
mm.
when we get out of our comfort zone and our little community that we live in all the time? Speak to that.
Yeah. I think it humanizes the headlines. I was working with a
Mm.
couple who wanted to go see the Holy Lands. So we planned stops in Jerusalem and Bethlehem or the West Bank and the Sea of Galilee. And they got home right before all the bombing started. And for them,
Wow.
watching that story unfold on the news was so much more impactful because they knew people there. And in fact, they reached out to one of their guides that they developed a relationship with, just, hey, are you okay? And they've kept in touch with him since. So I think that is important. Again, these places that we see on the news just aren't make believe, they're people. This is happening in people's
Yeah.
backyards. And I think as far as relationship to the world, also just seeing how other people do things. There's a culture out there that leaves little bundles of flowers in all of their doorways to express gratitude to the people who are coming and going. I mean, how beautiful is that? And
Mm,
that's not
it's
what they put in
incredible.
the history books. You have to see that stuff.
Or
It
in the
just,
news. Usually,
yeah,
it's not what we're hearing on the news.
no, you're right.
Mm.
Yeah. Often what we're hearing in the news is the bad stuff. You don't hear about the little bundles of gratitude that people leave. Again, I think that the more you have new experiences, the more you understand or you're building your knowledge, which leads to better understanding, and you're more compassionate as a result of that. I think it's very important.
Yeah, I think that's really the key is that compassion that
Mm.
builds, that
Hmm.
compassion, the empathy. Also, you talked about little gratitude bundles. You know, I live in the United States and we have resources and running water and simple things that are easy to take for granted. And boy, when you step out of your comfort zone into another environment where they
Hmm.
may not have the resources that you do, it can really impact your gratitude in your own life. But also, there are so many other cultures where they are so grateful for what they have. And
Mm.
our perspective might be like, wow, how can they be grateful?
Yeah,
But they
it's
are. And boy,
huge.
there are lessons to be learned there from other people and other cultures. It's
Yeah.
powerful.
Two stories just popped into my head as you were saying that. Things that I've learned from my kids. Well, first of all, we went into Costa Rica and realized that they don't have mail, they don't have a postal system. So that means that they don't have Amazon
Wild.
and they can't get anything
Right.
that they want within 2 days. And that blew my son's mind. Um,
Right.
but
Because
they're not,
what would we do here if we couldn't
yeah,
get our Amazon packages in two
right.
days?
Right. Well, I'll tell you
Yeah.
what it does.
Wow.
They're not materialistic. There's no keeping up with the Joneses because
Yeah.
nobody, the Joneses don't even have it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. We also were in a third world country once and we went by what I was like, oh, that's so depressing. It was a neighborhood built on a dirt ground with corrugated tin roof ceilings, lots of families together under that one roof. And I was hoping my kids were looking at that and saying, wow, that's poverty. Wow, we are really lucky. But what they said was, wow, how fun would it be to live in a place like that with all of our friends? I'm like, oh my gosh, that's fantastic,
That's wild.
So, yeah.
Yes.
Yes, it does
Yes,
make them more
absolutely.
grateful for
What a
sure.
great
For sure.
perspective. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, talking about other cultures, talking about experiencing other cultures, I know there are people listening that are
Mm-hmm.
like, that sounds great, except we are struggling to pay our bills and
Yeah,
things are expensive. And this is just not something that I can foresee making it a priority. They wonder if they can afford it. Are there affordable options for travel?
absolutely. Absolutely. You don't have to pay more to have a better experience. It can be as simple as going to the state park that's just an hour away. It's just about getting out of your normal situation, your normal routines, your normal roles, and spending uninterrupted time together. So, no, it doesn't have to be expensive to be impactful. One of my most rewarding trips that I got to plan for somebody else was a mother daughter hiking trip. They went through the North Georgia mountains and ended up at a little tiny cabin up there for 2 days, and it changed their relationship. They just came back so much more connected. I
Awesome.
mean,
Yeah, and that's
yeah,
that's a hiking trip. That's not
yeah,
luxury.
it's
It's not a
not.
lot of
Mm-mm.
money to it.
Yeah,
Yeah, maybe there's gas money, the cost of the cabin, a little bit of food, but that's not, I mean, that sounds like that was a life-changing experience
yeah.
for the mother and their daughter in their relationship for not a lot of money. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of options like that, I'm sure. I
Yep.
think it requires a little bit of creativity. Maybe it requires looping in someone like yourself, getting a travel advisor to
Mm-hmm.
help you with some of those lower budget ideas. I think the real key is not just throwing it off the table entirely because
Mm-hmm.
you're expecting you can't afford these things.
Yep.
And also, if you have a plan in place and oh, maybe it's not 2026. Maybe you would love to take a trip with your family in 2027. Now's the time to plan,
Yeah.
right? Because
Absolutely.
if you're thinking about, oh, I'm going to have to save money for that,
Mm-hmm.
now's the time. Now's the time to do it. So let's talk about that then. As we look at 2026,
Mm-hmm.
we have the whole year ahead of us. If someone does want to prioritize it, either for themselves personally, for their families, friends, or for their partner, their spouse, where do we start? What's a good plan we can implement?
I love this. And honestly, Jen, this is what I love about your podcast. You leave people with tangible action steps that they can take to make a difference. And so
Thank you.
props to you for that.
Thank you. Well, that's what I was hoping to do. So
Yeah.
help us do that.
Yeah. I think a great place to start, the first step is choose the relationship. Who do you want to feel more connected with this year? And then
Mm.
be it your spouse, be it one of your children, be it a girlfriend or a group of girlfriends that you want to reconnect with, and invest in them. Ask, if I'm thinking like of a child, to ask them, as I said earlier, what they're curious about, and then set your destination around that and set your activities around that. Demonstrate that their interests are important to you. So choose a relationship is definitely a great place to start.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So let's say I'm going to use an example. My Natalie is a senior. So let's say I wanted to do a senior trip with her before she leaves, and she is in a high level Spanish. I mean, she can speak Spanish pretty well. So let's say that's an interest. She loves history, and maybe we can use a little bit of Spanish. What would be a second step?
I think you're onto that. The choose your purpose. Do you want this trip to be fun,
Okay.
relaxing? Do you want it to be adventuresome? Do you want it to be, celebrating her transition from high school to college? Choose your purpose. I think that's the
Yeah. Or
second step.
educational.
Yeah, absolutely. There are so many purposes.
Yeah.
Are you celebrating something? Are
Yeah.
you healing? Do you need reflection? I think that really drives the place. So I think purpose should
Definitely.
come before place. So,
All right. So we're focusing on a relationship is step one.
mhm.
We're figuring out the purpose
Yep.
is step two.
Yep.
Then what do we do?
I think you pick your place and your frequency, your pattern. Do you want to do one celebration trip? And then if you're looking at this from a year perspective, the plan for the year, is it going to be one milestone celebration trip and then one relationship trip? Or is it going to be one intentional trip and then a couple more spontaneous trips? So choosing your pattern And all of that kind of leads into your place. So many people
Yeah.
start with place,
So
but
that makes sense. But I like your order better,
yeah, I
right?
agree.
What are the relationships that you really want to build?
Hmm.
And then what is the purpose of that trip?
Yeah.
So, also, when you're talking about this pattern,
Hmm.
so I would look at that as all right, my pattern is what I'd really love is to have one trip with my kids, but I do not neglect my marriage.
Hmm.
So, I would absolutely say, I need a trip in there just for Casey and me. So maybe the pattern would be okay, every year or this would be my goal every year. I want one solo trip with my husband and I want one trip with us as a family. Is that what you mean by
Yeah,
setting a pattern?
absolutely.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
being intentional. That's why I think talking about relationships and purpose and pattern first is helpful because you're thinking about the whole year. So many people come to the end of the year and they're like, "Ugh, we didn't go anywhere this year."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
make it a
Yeah.
priority
Well, that's
and
why we're getting
think
ahead of
your
it.
pattern.
First of
Yeah.
the year, getting
Yes. Yes.
that's right, getting the
Exactly.
plan done. All
Yeah.
right, so that's step number 3, and I guess
Yep.
that pattern is the place, or is that step 4? Pick the place.
Those two kind of come together. The
Okay.
next step is budgeting. You got to talk about it and you got to be honest with
Mhm.
the budget. Set a budget that's realistic. You don't want this to be stressful, and you don't want
Yeah.
your expectation to be different than somebody else's expectation about how much you're going to spend on this. And then it gives you the chance to start saving.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know. I work with a couple who they both auto draft from every single paycheck that they both have into an account that's designated exclusively for travel. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, so you can start
That's
planning.
fantastic.
Yep.
And also that auto draft situation, it's like you're just automatically saving. You don't even have to think about it.
Right.
You have determined this is a priority for our relationship,
Yep.
and we're just not even going to think about it. We're going to even if it was $10,
Yeah.
$10 a week. That's a Starbucks these days,
Yes,
right? What if you
absolutely.
forego a Starbucks
Uh,
a few times a week and started putting that into this is our travel
yeah.
account? So yeah, there's so many ways to do it, but you're right. If you don't sit down and say this is our priority,
Hmm.
let's pick a budget either to save for or move some money around, it's not going to happen.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, being intentional about it. So budget, okay, and then what's
Hmm.
next?
Figure out how you're going to plan it. There are people who love the planning. Casey Funk loves it. I think the
He does.
anticipation.
He does.
Yeah, and he's really good at it. The anticipation is part of the
Yeah.
journey. So, do you want to do it
Yep.
yourself? And there are so many DIY tools out there right now that really make it easy to plan your own trip. And that's great for some people, but then there are people who don't love it. They get stressed out, they don't have the
Yeah.
time, they don't have the interest. And that's where having a trusted travel advisor can come in. Again, it's not supposed to be stressful. Um, and you don't
Yeah.
have to be either or. I work with plenty of people who love figuring out where they're going to go, mapping out a general route, even planning some of the hotels, but then they turn it over to me so that they can take advantage of the network of relationships that I have to book that little family run guest house in the Swiss Alps or book the Pompeii tour with one of the archaeologists. So I can definitely get in and
Yeah.
help with something that you've started. Go
Yeah, and
travel.
you have the ability to have already vetted out these places too. So a lot of times, like
Exactly.
Casey's planning our trips for us, and he is amazing, but you're kind of going on a wing and a prayer. Like you hope this is going to be great. You're
Hmm.
going by some of the ratings and reviews, but at the end of the day, your network of people, they've been there. You have people on the ground that know exactly what that place looks like. So that's another advantage, I think. And just the combination of the two is pretty cool that
Yeah.
you don't
Yeah.
have to do exclusively one or the other.
It's
So then you plan it and then you do it.
You do it.
Off
You
you
do
go
it.
on your trip.
Yep. You come home with all the benefits that we've been talking about. So, um,
That's right.
you're
I
just
love it.
you're a richer person, I think, when you come home.
Oh, I so agree. I really do. Well, let's let our listeners know if they need some help and support planning their travel for 2026, how do they find you? What's the best way to reach you?
Mm. I would be honored to help anyone who wants me involved. My website is a great place to start. It's J Sullivan
Yep.
Advisors. You can always email me or look me up on social, Facebook or Instagram. My social is Travel Advisors, J Sullivan Travel Advisors.
Okay, I'm going to put all that in the
Thank
show
you.
notes so they can find you. And Oh my gosh, we're out of time, but
Mhm.
Jennifer, this has been amazing. And
Thank
thank you
you.
so much. I feel super inspired to sit down and plan what 2026 and beyond looks like for me and my family. Maybe get one of those solo trips on the books finally. You've just been an inspiration and a wealth of great information. So thank you.
Thank you. Well,
Appreciate you.
kudos to you for putting travel and relationships together, making that connection. That's brilliant.
Thank you. I
Of
appreciate it. It's
course.
been so important to me. I know so important to you and yours. So this has just been a great conversation. And have a
Likewise.
wonderful new year.
Thank you. You
All
too.
right, take
Travel
care.
well.
Bye. I hope that you enjoyed that conversation as much as I enjoyed being a part of it. And I really hope that what you heard today is that travel isn't just about getting away. Travel is about intentionally creating connection, a connection with your partner, connection with your kids, connection with your friends, connection with yourself, and connection with the world around you. I'll put all of Jennifer's information in the show notes for you guys. Please reach out to her if you need any support with your travel needs this upcoming year. She certainly is a wealth of information and very well networked in the industry. As you look ahead into the new year, I will leave you with this question. Which relationship in your life could use a little bit more connection? And how might travel support that? I hope that you will give that some thought. Till next time, thanks for being here. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for joining me on Relating with Jen Funk. To find out how we can work together and get free resources to strengthen your relationships, head to jenfunkcoaching.com and sign up for my newsletter. Till then, stay connected, stay encouraged, and I'll see you next week.